Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. It's Joni from the blog simplelivingmama.com, and in today's video I'm going to be sharing my review of My Father's World's language lessons for today. So I've had some questions about language lessons for today, and I finally wanted to sit down and talk to you guys about the program, how it works, what we liked about it, and why we will be using it again. So I started out with My Father's World's primary language lessons back when my oldest child was in second grade. Now that was before My Father's World revised to their new language lessons for today. These are based off of primary language lessons, which were written like back in 1911, I think. So they revised all of that into language lessons for today, so it's updated with the way that we speak now and the grammar that we use now and everything like that. So it's made for your kids today in the world that we live in right now. I had switched my son from primary language lessons to The Good and the Beautiful, ended up coming back to language lessons for today because I wanted something that was simpler. I wanted something that didn't take as much time and all of that stuff. So that's why we went back. This past year, my second grader did grade 2, which looks like this. My fourth grader did grade 4, and then my sixth grader, he still has his workbook. He did grade 6. So it worked out just fine to keep going with their current grades and everything. They did great. So what is language lessons for today? This is a non-consumable book, so that way I can reuse it. Now, my second grader, he's rough on things, so the binding came off of his book and I need to reattach it. But my fourth graders is still holding up really well. My sixth graders is actually spiral bound and it's holding up pretty well too. I can pass these down to my kids, my younger kids, and yeah, not have to rebuy the program every single year. Now, how I did it was anytime that my kids needed to write anything down, they had a spiral notebook that was set up just for their language lessons for today stuff. So they would write the lesson at the top of the page with the dates and then complete whatever it is that they needed to complete. Now, they don't have to write for every single lesson. This is not a writing curriculum. Language lessons for today covers grammar. It does cover some composition, but they're not going to actually, be writing essays with this. They do copy work, poem memorization, picture study, a lot of oral composition, especially in the younger years. Letter writing, they work on abbreviations, all kinds of grammar work and all of that stuff. And it is covered in short, easy to use lessons. So for example, here is lesson 1 in grade 2, and this is just a picture study. So, and they do have color pictures as well. So your child will study the picture and then they will answer these questions orally. Keep in mind, this is for a second grader, so there's not a ton of written work in grade 2. This approach is very similar to a Charlotte Mason approach to grammar and English, basically, as well as some classical approaches. So there's dictation included. Here's a color picture for picture study, and every day they're doing something different. So one day they'll be studying a picture. The next day, they'll be working on statements and filling in the blank and learning the difference between a statement and a question and an exclamation. There's poems to read aloud, different poems in here for them to memorize, and the difference between was and were, the difference between a and an. The articles, they'll learn about different articles, different pronouns. Here's a look at some dictation further on in. This is seasons and months dictation. And overall, like, we spend maybe 20 minutes a day doing our language lessons. Now, my second grader does not do a separate writing curriculum. My fourth grader and my sixth grader do language lessons for today 3 days a week, and then 2 days a week they will use My Father's World's writing skills for today is what I think it is. And it's kind of a companion, which I will, if you guys want me to, I can do a flip through and a review of writing skills for today as well. So that's just for the older children in fourth grade and above. Now here's the fourth grade book, and it's set up in a very similar way, but just a little bit more complicated than the second grade book. So here is a composition, a fable, and then it says write this fable in dialogue form, begin it this way. So in fourth grade, they're beginning to learn dialogue and quotations and how all of that works. Here's an example of a poem to memorize. So we have the planting of the apple tree, and there's an excerpt, some questions being asked. My sixth grader, so I did notice with my fourth grader, they didn't keep a separate envelope, a grammar envelope. I'm not sure what happens in fifth grade yet. I haven't looked at the fifth grade book, although we do have it. But my sixth grader did keep his own grammar envelope. So he would write down a particular part of speech, whether it was an article or an adjective or whatever. He would write that on the front, and then on the back he would write the definition as well as give some examples, and he would keep those in his envelope, and then he could go back and refer to them if he needed to. So that was one way that he was learning his grammar. Here is an example of a poem to read aloud. Now I would have her, since she is reading very well, I would have her read this poem aloud. My second grader is reading very well too, so I would have him read his poem aloud. If I had a child that was still not a confident reader, I would read the poem aloud to them. Let's see. Here's a picture study example in the fourth grade book. And a poem to memorize. So as you can see, it gets a little bit more complicated. This is a longer poem than one that would be found in the second grade book. Also, we worked on a lot of narration. So the child would read a composition and then narrate it back to me. A lot of this was done orally. They had the option of doing it orally or in writing. And, you know, whenever they had to write, like I said, they would just pull out their spiral notebooks, write the lesson at the top, and then fill in whatever it is that they needed to fill in. Here's another example of a picture study. So this covers all of that great stuff: picture study, poetry, grammar, narration, dictation. That's why I love it so much, and it doesn't take long at all to complete the lessons, and it really flows for our homeschool day in particular because I have so many students that I'm trying to teach. Now, it doesn't cover geography, it doesn't cover spelling, and like I said, it doesn't really cover writing skills. They do some writing, but actual learning how to form sentences correctly and paragraphs, that is taught in the writing skills book. Now, of course, just by default, they're going to pick up on spelling and the correct way to form sentences and all of that by doing narration, by doing dictation, by doing, poetry memorization and copy work and stuff like that. So, don't think that that is totally missing in this program, because it's not. That stuff is going to be learned just as a byproduct of all of the activities that are actually in the Language Lessons for Today book. So we love it. We're going to keep continuing on with it. I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you found it helpful, don't forget to give us a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel, and check out the playlist for more information about My Father's World curriculum. I've got another playlist you can check out with all of my homeschooling tips and planning tips and how-tos and all of that stuff. So I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.